In this video on revision, we're going to have a look at the age-old topic of cramming. Now, we've all been there, 24 hours before an examination, pots of strong coffee on the go, massive array of reading material laid out on our desks, thinking that if we stare long and hard enough at said reading material, we'll remember some of it and we'll be okay in the examination. Now, it's not that research in psychology indicates that cramming doesn't work per se, but it does indicate that it's not the optimal approach to revision, particularly if you want to retain knowledge in the longer term. So there are a couple of reasons why cramming isn't optimal. The first reason is that if you read something repeatedly over a short period of time, that material is going to start to appear, subjectively at least, more familiar to you. And because it's subjectively more familiar, you might start to think that, well, that means you'll be able to remember it under exam conditions. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Subjective familiarity with material isn't necessarily a good indication that you'll be able to recall that material under test conditions. The second reason is that cramming is one of those approaches to studying that is very simple and very straightforward to implement and can give us some fairly promising early signs that we might be actually retaining some of the material. Now, as we've said, some of those early indications, particularly if they're based on subjective familiarity, might be erroneous, but they conspire to give us the impression that cramming must be an effective way to learn. Actually, studying is often a lot more like going to the gym, and things that are too simple and too easy and don't make you sweat a bit aren't necessarily the best ways to go about learning and won't give you the best long-term learning gains. So if cramming isn't the most effective approach to revision, then what approach to revision should you be using? So rather than trying to revise by cramming, it's often a much better idea to take advantage of something that psychologists call the spacing effect. And this refers to a very old experimental finding in psychology that's been replicated since the late 1800s, that if you have a period of time that you want to allocate to studying, let's say 6 hours for example, it's much better to distribute that time across multiple sessions and leave a gap between each of those sessions than it would be just to do a 6-hour marathon studying session. The spacing effect is one of those really powerful findings in psychology that pretty much goes uncontested. It's not a silver bullet in that you've still got to pay attention to the way you're going about revising. For example, you shouldn't be revising by just rereading content over and over again. You should be making use of retrieval practice or testing yourself on your knowledge of the contents or the subject that you're trying to revise. But nonetheless, spacing out your sessions will make the process of revision much easier, much less unpleasant, and will generate better results in terms of your recall of the information you're trying to take in.